Hey, welcome to the debut episode of Mets Wrap 360. I'm your host, Christian Bland, and it's going to be a treat for all of you today. We're joined for the entire show by comedian Jim Breuer, who's a huge Mets fan. So welcome to Mets Wrap 360.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Oh, yeah, here we go. This is how we get started. Our first episode here. As I said, I'm Christian Black. Maybe you know me from The Tomorrow Show. Maybe you know me from Dennis Miller Show. Maybe you don't know me at all. But you will know our guest, actor-comedian Jim Breuer, who, for our purposes on this show, the most important thing is that you're a Mets fan. But welcome to the show,
That's
Jim.
all that matters at the end of the day.
It's really all that it comes down to.
That's all we have.
And so this song that we're listening to, we'll talk about your album in a little bit, but since we can hear it, we might as well say a little bit about your album, Songs from the Garage, Jim Breuer, and the Loud and Rowdy's debut EP. Or is it?
Yeah,
it's an LP. EP, LP. I get so confused anymore.
Whatever's longer.
Yeah, that would be the LP. It's the long play. And that's out May 27th. But anybody listening, they should recognize that voice.
Yeah.
Brian Johnson.
Yes.
Which that's awesome that you have him.
And that's just him talking. There's another song that he actually sings with me on the song.
We're going to play that on the way out, so people have to keep listening and listen for Brian there. But anyway, so I wanted to start off talking about, it's funny because when you're a Mets fan, it's almost like you meet another Mets fan and it's like, oh, you too? Hey, man, what happened? So how did you become a Mets fan?
I think I remember I was only 4 years old, and we're talking 73 season.
Okay.
And so I honestly think at first it was the announcers, because I remember being little and this is so stupid, but I would hear the Yankee theme song,
right,
and the Mets theme song. And the Mets theme song was so much more cheerful.
Meet the Mets
for a child.
Yeah,
where the Yankees one was like, and had a little dark, weird. It spooked me out.
But the Mets is bring your kiddies.
The Mets, bring your
and you're
kiddies.
like, I'm a kiddie, I can go.
We're watching home runs over the wall.
Yeah,
it's gonna be great. And then Bob Murphy, Lindsey Nelson, Ralph Kiner.
Of course.
I just was attracted to those voices, and then I fell in love with Rusty Staub, Tom Seaver, Koosman, Matlack. I'm lefty, so I would imitate Matlack and Koosman, Tug McGraw. So that is kind of Felix Mian, Wayne Garrett. That I was only 4 years old, but I remember that whole team, and I remember watching a play. I remember crying when at the time my favorite player Bud Harrelson was punched in the face by Pete Rose.
How dare he?
I'm 5 years old by that time. By the time I was traumatized. I never saw anyone get punched in the face.
Especially not one of your favorite Mets.
No, and I see blood coming down. I'm like, what's going on?
And that's the real reason Pete Rose shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. That fight has nothing to do with the betting on baseball. For me, I was 10 when the Mets won the World Series in '86. So it was very easy because growing up, that was the period when the Mets weren't just good, they started to be great, and the Yankees were terrible.
They were bad.
My older brother, he's 5 years older than me, he's a huge Yankees fan because of the late 70s they were winning the World Series, and I wasn't even sitting upright.
Great teams, Chambliss, Roy White, Greg Nettles. I watched all that, and that was the horror Met years. Those were the those are the Met fans that have the tattoo, like the 60s.
Yeah.
The 70s guys, where I had to watch Willie Montañez and Bruce Beauclair and Craig Swan, Zachary Flynn. That was our team, and we suffered a lot. In '86, I remember Strawberry's first at bat because they started talking about him a year before. Yeah, no, there was all that ramp up, which I can't even imagine what that would have been like today. Do you remember what his first at bat? I don't remember. A lot of Met fans don't know this. It was against Mario Soto. Of the Cincinnati Reds. And they're like, this guy's a big home run hitter, blah, blah, blah. His first at bat, 3 straight, strike one, strike two, strike. Didn't even touch the ball. Big, slinky, 9-foot tall kid. Second at bat, strike one, strike two, strike three. Third at bat, strike one. Boom, foul tip. Bing, there's a drive in the upper deck. All the way. It is a foul ball. It was a foul ball by about a half a foot, but it went in the upper deck. And then, strike three. However, that one single foul ball made every Met fan go, this is what they're talking about.
That had to be the most exciting foul ball.
It was the most exciting foul ball in Met history, if not baseball history.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. I see. I didn't even realize that that happened. Now, do you remember? Was it at Shea? Was it old Riverfront? Okay.
Yep,
So you can, older Mets fans. Now you don't have to be that old, but you can just visualize where it would have gone in Shea Stadium
upper
at that
deck,
point. Yeah.
baby. You know how hard is it upper deck, right field? That was a monster shot.
Yeah. Now, so you've been a Met fan all this time, but more recently, in the last, I don't know, last season or the last two seasons, you started to. Last season's when you started.
From game one.
Okay, so from the first, opening day in
Max Scherzer versus Bartolo Colon.
I was at that game in DC.
Scherzer had a no-hitter going
I
until
remember.
Like the seventh inning.
And it was that, like, I can't believe I traveled to DC. My buddy lives there. I'm like, we're going to go to opening day. And I'm like, they have all these pictures. Why is it Bartolo Colon? Why do I have to watch him?
Why Bartolo Colon? And a 400-pound shirt hanging out going toe-to-toe.
With Max Scherzer. Yeah. I mean, and it was such a great game. But so then did you just decide, I want to go on Facebook and do a video?
I was already doing some videos.
Okay.
I was doing maybe 2 months before I started February of that year.
Oh, okay.
And then March and then what happened was, the honest story was, my wife was going through chemo at the time, and that opening day, she's getting no hair and she's a mess, going through that whole thing, and she's sitting she's watching me watch this game as if it was the 7th game of the World Series, and I'm hopping around the living room. We're gonna beat Max Scherzer, mister. We spent $200 million.
Yeah.
And I turn around, and with no energy, she has this smirk, almost like exerting a giggle. I said, "What are you laughing at?" She went, "This is what you should be making videos of. You should make a video. Stay a fan. You have to just be a fan. Make that video. The Met fans are gonna love it. They're gonna and you have to do every game. Every game.
Yeah,
that's insane.
And now you've had to do it. Like, you've been on stage when a game ends.
Yes.
And you've had to do it from there.
Yes.
And so what are some of the weirder times where you were like, okay, I got to talk about the Met game?
I think during the height of the playoffs, when I was on stage. So I would watch the shit. I would come out like, listen, I'm going to be funny, but I'm watching the game at the same time. So I'd be in the middle of a bit like, come on, take him out. Take him out. Sorry, everyone. What's going on right now? And that probably was I'm sure this year will be some. I want to come up with some creative stuff this year, but it's got to stay organic, but I do feel I have to up the ante this year.
Well, for our viewers on YouTube, and also you'll be able to hear this if you're listening to it on iTunes, I just wanted to play some of what I thought was one of the best ones, which was after Game 5 of the NLDS
that was
here in
amazing.
LA. I was at that game, so I had to have a very subdued celebration. I was with my friend. We're like... All right, good game. And then we waited, and we're like, okay, just don't make any eye contact, walk down the hill, get in the car, and then we freaked out in the car. And then I watched this when I got home, and I was like, that's how I felt inside. But anyway, so I want people to take a look and listen.
So tense.
Yeah, it was so tense. That whole game,
Utley and everything else going on.
Yes.
Come on! Stands for Let's Go Mets! We took you down. I'm getting teary-eyed watching it. I know. Utley, guess what you're chasing? Nothing. Nothing. And shame on you for Gary Cohen for putting down Daniel Murphy. Shame on you, Gary Cohen, for going on radio and putting down Gary Cohen.
But
Daniel Murphy MVP of the series.
And this is before we can turn it down. This is before he went on to have his championship series against the Cubs.
Yeah,
I picked this video for the sheer energy, but I also like the one you did after the NLCS.
The champagne?
Where you're like, hey, Cub fans, sorry. All right, Cub fans, you probably want to leave the room now. And then it was basically, I thought that was great.
I said, you have a great team.
Yeah.
You just need a pitcher or two. Please don't watch the rest of this video.
Right.
I warned them.
Yeah, you did.
Warned
and
them.
if they still watch, that's their fault.
Yeah, and I still had a couple going, we're going to ban you from Chicago. Like, oh, stop it, dummy.
Yeah, but no, so last season was great because, it started, I flew out to, opening day, and I'm like, I just wanted a competitive season. Let's finish over 500.
Right.
Next year will be better.
Right.
And, it started, snowballing in the good sense where you're like, no, this team's actually pretty good, but it's not great. They can't score any damn runs.
Right.
And despite the way that the season ended, I put a lot of credit on my now 9-month-old son Felix because he was born on Saturday, July 26th. So that's a couple days before Wilmer's on the field crying, right before the Cespedes trade. So he's there, and literally because, you live in LA, the games are on at 4 o'clock or 10 in the morning, which is even better. It's on. And it's like, he immediately stares at the TV because I always had Met games on when he was born. We'll figure that out later. He can talk to a psychiatrist about it. But it was so exciting, and it was like, oh yeah, all you knew was this great season. So I hope it continues, and we'll talk more about my son in a little bit. But kind of talk about that moment in the season when it was like, oh, well, maybe they're gonna, ship off Wilmer Flores and get Carlos Gomez, and you're like, all right, that'll be. And then when that doesn't happen and you get Cespedes instead, I mean, it's just like, wait, we never make.
I was mad about that trade. I was
the Cespedes or the Wilmer.
I was at the game.
Oh, you were?
I was 3 feet in front of Wilmer, and I'll tell you why I remember that game. It was hot.
Oh yeah, it looked like it.
It was it felt 105, and my oldest daughter, who really didn't want to go to the game, by the fourth thing she was, I don't feel good. I feel like I'm gonna pass out. I said, drink more water.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm gonna pass out. So I take her to the nurse's station.
Right.
To the first aid. She's up there. While we're in there, they say Wilmer Flores has been traded.
So you're in there and you actually hear them mention
I'm watching
it.
them, and they're saying they got Gomez. And I'm starting to see people going, yeah, we got our home. I went, this is the bat. This is the big bat that's going to change. Gomez? No offense to Gomez, but you're getting rid of Wheeler?
Yeah.
For Gomez?
I know, that was what was supposed to be included in the trade, was Zach Wheeler.
Out of your minds.
Yeah.
I was really angry about that. And we finally came back to see it about the probably 7th inning, 6th inning, and Wilmer was coming up the bat. I still got pictures of him 3 feet in front of me. And the kids in front of me are going, you got traded. You going to Milwaukee, you got traded. And he looked back, and we were all saying, shut up, man.
Yeah,
Dude,
right?
don't say that. And they were saying it louder, like, you got traded with Zach Wheeler. And they're telling him.
Yeah, what the trade was.
He was looking.
Wow.
He kept looking at them. And he really, he came up the bat, and we looked at each other like, what we should applaud.
Yeah.
And we stood up and we started applauding, and you could see he was confused. And then when he grounded out, we all stood up and cheered for him, and you can see he was confused. So that happened. The other thing that happened that game, Duda hit the only the Mets lost 9-3. He hit 3 solo homers.
I do remember that. Yeah.
And his third at bat, we were one of the only people left in the crowd, and he looked at my daughter and he smiled and he grabbed the ball and he tossed it to her.
Oh, nice.
And then he hit. I said, "Dude, hit another one! Hit another one!" He hits another one, rounds the bases, and if you watch the replay, he points at my daughter.
Oh, that's great.
Hey, man, that was for you. So that was.
Did she feel better after that? Would she feel
did.
like
she was all lit up, like, and I went, "You, do you have any clue what just happened? Like that's a movie scene." But I was never so relieved than to get in my car at the game and realize, you know what, this trade might not have gone through. And I went, that's the best thing in the world. And then I was on the road, and it was the trade deadline. And literally, I'm driving, and I'm with my opener. I'm going, it's 3:45, and they've done nothing.
Nothing.
You don't
I
understand.
remember that. Yeah.
This is, and then all of a sudden, I heard them literally like 3 minutes before 4 p.m. They went up. I don't want to announce this too. It's official, but some big here at the Mets. I went, oh my God, oh my! I had to pull over into a rest stop because I couldn't contain my energy. Like, what is going on? What is going on? And I wanted Gonzalez from Colorado.
Yeah.
And they go, yep, looks pretty official. The Mets have traded 3 prospects, or whatever they said, for Yoenis Cespedes. I went, yes! We got Cespedes! And like his contract, I don't care! And I was there the first game he hit the homer.
Oh, great.
And he wasn't hitting homers yet.
No.
He wasn't really hitting.
Yeah.
And then that game, the parakeet was flying around. But what really lit him up was the ball was thrown up and tight at his head.
Oh, okay.
And if you watch right before the homer, he threw it at his head.
Yeah.
And backed him off, and he almost decked. And then he looked at the pitcher, and the next shot, he hit about 10,000 feet over the center field wall. And I was like, wow, you just woke up a giant, very angry giant.
And that was such a crazy run that he went on for after that. I don't have all the stats because I hate to get bogged down, but there's like 17 home runs in like just a handful of games.
I'm going to say the beginning of September, I just knew they were going to the World Series. I knew it. You could see the excitement in the team. You saw their confidence. And when they swept the Nats.
That's what I was going to say. Is when they swept the Nats, when the Nats couldn't be bothered to rearrange their pitching to match up their best pitchers, they're like, no, we got this. Bryce Harper, show me my ring, the whole thing.
Done.
And, I mean, I think you look at them this year, the Nats, you think that they maybe learned something from that because...
They might have.
Yeah. They look really good this year.
They're on a mission.
Yeah, but last year, it was such a mess. That manager, like, I don't even think anybody listened to him.
It was the Kardashians.
Yeah. It was definitely the Kardashians. And, Papelbon Kardashian, bringing him in, that didn't help. That thing was such a mess. Storing, just that bullpen was so bad.
Mess.
And it's like you have all this starting pitching, and I mean, how many Met teams have I seen that with? But it was just, you still felt like, all right, well, these are the Mets. I don't know, but once, like you said, once they, and how great was it that Wilmer hit that home run?
Wilmer hits the homer, and you just knew.
Yeah.
I turned to everyone. I said, they're going to the series. And I did have I wasn't super confident when they were in the World. I was confident all the way up until game 1 out.
Yeah.
I went, we are winning the World Series. Bink, there's a drive. He's going back. It is a tie game. I went, we may lose this series.
We may lose this series, yeah.
We may lose this series.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, if you're a good team, you should be able to beat anybody. But as it was getting closer, I'm like, man, I just hope they play Toronto because
Me too.
Because it was just going to be a slugfest. They can't pitch.
Right.
Right. I was excited. David Price in the play. So I was just like, this is going to be great. Maybe I'll go to Toronto and to New York.
That's right.
Because I went to 2 games in the World Series. I went to the 2 they lost at Citi Field, games 4 and 5. And that's the thing that I think is like, I got to go to the World Series. I always kick myself because I had no money in 2000 when I went to the World Series. But I was like, I could have found it. I should have gone. And then I had 15 years to be like, why didn't I go to the World Series? So I figured out a way to do it. I flew out from LA. I missed my son's first Halloween, but my wife was like, he's a few months old. He's not going to know.
He doesn't even know what a color is. Don't worry about it.
She's like,
shake it off.
He's not going to know. Don't worry about it. And, you'll tell him you went to the World Series and, be jealous. So I bought him a shirt. That's fine. So so I got to go. And that's my thing is, people are like, oh, I'm so sorry. And look, I felt like they had most of those games they could have won. They should have won maybe. But I didn't feel afterwards where I was just like, the season was a disaster. And I think that's the huge difference between a Met fan and a Yankee fan, who, by the way, had an awful, 1 wild card game in the playoffs last year, and that was it. But, for them, it's always like World Series or nothing. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, obviously you want to win a World Series and you hope you do this year, but it was like, how much fun was that to get to the point? And I went to the World Series, and one of the games, and we'll talk about the guys in the 7 line a little later, I sat in their section, which is insane because it's the most diehard of the diehard. So it was so much fun. I would have liked to have been at the one that they won, but you know what? That's not the way it happened. It was, I don't know. So what do you think as you think back on the World Series now? Maybe not after that last game, but now when you think about it.
The Royals came to play.
They really did.
The Mets were still celebrating, and I think their eyes were really wide. Like, we're really here?
Yeah.
They weren't ready for that.
Right.
Those Royals were locked and loaded. They tasted the blood the year before.
Because they got to Game 7 against the Giants, they were so close. Yeah.
So close. They were on a mission, and they played that. They were amazing.
They outplayed.
Come on,
the
they
Mets
outplayed us in every way.
In every way. Just on the base pass,
getting on base, getting a run in,
getting
just bunting over,
timely hitting, as they always say.
Timely hitting,
literally everything.
They were phenomenal. I have to say, I was kind of in awe watching them. I was aggravated to hear, they're a contact hitting team and they're hard to walk, and I didn't get that until it was like, another 0-2 count. Foul ball, foul ball, foul ball, foul ball. Ball one and two, foul ball, foul ball, 2 and 2. Like, come on, just walk him. This guy knocking 7 foul balls. It was they earned that win. But again, like you said, I was happy with their performance, and we didn't expect to be there.
No.
And but this year, I expect to be there.
Yeah, I definitely expect to be there. And it's crazy, too, because, they go last year, and they're definitely an afterthought for most people, because I was watching, the Mets and Cubs did this preseason game in Vegas, and I was watching it, but it's the Cubs. It's the Cub announcers feed. And the Cubs announcers are talking about, like, this championship season that's about to start, and they literally use those words. And I'm like, you're the Cubs, right? Should you maybe not say that out loud? But they're so confident. And look, they're a good team. But going into that NLCS, I thought they were a good team, and I was like, I don't know what happened, but that was not a good team on the field in the NLCS last year. I think
them against the Mets were the Mets against the Royals.
Right.
They still were like, we're really this far?
Right.
Where the Mets came to play and beat them.
Yeah.
But this year is going to be a whole new what the Cubs have. I think their key player that people may underestimate is Lackey. Lackey's
that's a great observation.
Big game winner, and
that was his rookie year. He won Game 7 for the Angels, I think.
And you got Arrieta, who the Mets beat. But listen, beat him. But
apart from that, I think they won his last 19 or 20 starts or something.
He's 21-1.
Yeah, right, exactly.
21-1 since last July. The one the Met lost, and you have Lester, who's always going to bring it.
Yeah,
and now you have Lackey. And Lackey, so they match up very well against the Mets.
It's true. I mean, going into that series last year, it was just like, okay, Arrieta, that's a tough game. You might not win that. You might be able to beat Lester, but then you're like, all the other guys, you felt like, oh yeah.
And you had what's his name in left field. Anytime you hit it to him, he drop it, go through, and you're excited. It's not going to happen again.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So we got to play. We have major challenges.
Yeah,
the Nationals are a major challenge.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Is like the Nationals are, better than they were last year. And I don't know, I kind of was very dismissive when they hired Dusty Baker because, he in the playoffs, you always remember, Dusty in that same World Series with the Angels, giving the game ball to Russ Ortiz in the 6th inning. He's like, yeah, you did this, but no, you didn't. And just, I mean, he brought the Reds to the playoffs, I think, 3 straight years, and he still lost his job, So there was definitely something about him. But because what they had, in Washington was so bad, I think that it's really brought it together, and you just feel like these guys have actually come to play, and they're like, no, let's not take it for granted.
However, when I look at this Mets team and the moves Sandy made, they're starting to really prevail. When Cabrera and Walker together probably have more home runs than the entire shortstop, second base combo of all last year. Already.
I think you're right, yeah.
Cabrera is a big hitter. He's clutch. Walker's clutch.
I was very impressed by Neil Walker. I mean, obviously I was fond of Daniel Murphy. I got to
still are.
Yeah, still are, but I was like, they're not going to keep him. And I'm like, I don't know what they're going to do there. And couldn't be happier with what they replaced him with.
Man, we got the team.
Yeah.
We have the team. I have my prediction, which means absolutely nothing. I think when we go head-to-head, the Mets are going to step up, and they're going to take the Nationals.
I mean,
make
that's
their
happening
statement.
relatively soon. That's in a couple weeks,
Yeah.
you know, after this, all these West Coast games. But I think those are gonna be great games because I mean, they were last year from a Mets standpoint. From a Nat standpoint, it's like, oh yeah, you know, you're up in the 5th inning, but you know, it was basically the same thing. You know,
Sure.
you walk a guy, somebody gets a double, and then Cespedes hits a home run, and the game was over. Right. You know, so we'll see if it works that way. But you know, to have the disappointment of not winning the World Series, but you're like, you know what, we're going to be good next year. But then the way this season started, you know, they were 2-5 to start, and you know, they had all those off days. You're like, what are they doing? You know, and that was literally 1 week, and I did actually write down one stat because I wanted to get it right. They were 17-9 after that, which is great, and they're like, you know, behind the Nationals, but barely. And it's like, yeah, you feel like they probably, that first week of the season was almost an extra week of spring training, you know, even though the games counted. And after that, they really turned it on. I mean, just rolling the Braves and the Reds, and that game that they hit all those
Giants.
runs. They got 12 runs against the Giants in an inning, and you're just like, you know, Giants are a good team. You didn't do that, you know, to the Rockies. You know, you got 12 runs off San Francisco, and I was like, that's a pretty good feeling, you know. And I mean, they were just on that run. They had 8 wins. And then you face Madison Bumgarner, and you're like, all right, we're going to have to sit down for a little bit. You know,
Exactly.
It's like, you know, there's always going to be somebody that you run into, you know.
Of course.
Maybe it'll be Kershaw next week, although actually I think they miss him because I think he pitches on Sunday. Right. So, but anyway, you always have, you know, you always have to remember, you know, even the teams that maybe aren't the best, well, they always have a couple of those guys that, you know, can put the brakes on momentum. And losing a game to the Braves, you're like, well, how'd that happen? But at the same time, you're like, well, you did beat them 5 out of 6. So, you know,
it was a tough pitcher.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, I don't know. I think it's good. If I had done the show when the season started, it might have been very entertaining that first week. I was like, what are they doing? Why do they have all these off days?
Yeah.
Play the game. You know, this was me yelling at my TV.
Sure.
So, but now it's a much better feeling, and the fact that they're out here on the West Coast is great for me because I actually get to see them.
There you go.
And tell me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that you do plan your stand-up dates around when the Mets are going to be somewhere. Like
I plan it around I try to see where the 7-line army is going.
Right.
So I like sitting with them. They're nuts.
Yeah,
and
no,
they're
those guys are
exciting.
nuts. Yeah, and if we can bring up the picture of the 7-line army for people watching on YouTube just to see, that's it. That's the bright orange section that I was in for Game 4 of the World Series. Yeah,
I think I stopped by during every playoff game and the World Series games, and then I went with them to Baltimore. So
right.
I'll be there in San Diego, and I got a couple others that I'll be hopping on. But
yeah, so that's going to be great, and that's this Saturday. If we could bring up the picture of my son Felix, who I talked about earlier, there he is. He's 2 months old. That's after they clinched in Cincinnati. Too much celebrating, you know. Yeah, he was just watching this champagne go everywhere. It was just it was too much for him. But so I'm going to bring him. This is going to be his first game in San Diego, and
exciting.
It's not just a game. It's a game with the 7-line. There's going to be 1,500 of us at Petco Park, which I don't know if you've ever been there before, but it's quiet. It's not a loud park.
Well, it's going to be loud Saturday.
So that's going to be great. And I think that's cool that you were like, well, I want to go with the 7-line. And I had read that.
Stay a fan.
Yeah.
It's good to be, you know, I get bin TV or whatever you may think me of, but at the end of the day, I like staying a fan.
Yeah.
Staying a fan of music, baseball, whatever. I'm a fan. I don't ever want that taken away.
Right. To allude back to that 2002 Angels World Series, what you never want to look like is a John Travolta and Michael Eisner in the owner's box just embracing after they won, and you're just like, this is really uncomfortable. Why are we seeing this?
Yeah, I want my shirt off.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I want to be twirling
That's
my
what we
shirt.
Need. We need you trying to run onto the field,
run
and
the
get tackled.
champagne and run through the house like a maniac. That's what I want.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I don't know. I mean, in sitting with that 7-line, I didn't even know that much about them until I forget what their first year was. I think it was 2012. I was at a game in San Francisco.
They might have been earlier than that.
Yeah, but the first time I saw them, I think was 2012. They were at a game in San Francisco that my wife and I were at, and I'm like, sure, a lot of Mets fans over there, and then you're watching and you're like, that one section is louder than the whole ballpark. And San Francisco is not San Diego. It's a little bit louder. There's some energy there. They understand their team, and I was just like, these guys are crazy. So I'm just excited that they are taking another West Coast swing, and I just can't imagine the video and photos I'll have of my 9-month-old, surrounded by all these crazy Met fans. So that should be great. I want to talk to you about your album in a second, but just as you look back all these years that you're a Mets fan, who are some of your favorite Mets that you just like? That you don't even have to rank them. Just when you think off the top of your head, my favorite Mets, just a few of them.
A couple obscure ones: John Milner, John Stearns, Ed Kranepool.
John Stearns, who I remember more as a base coach,
big double hitter,
right?
Great catcher, great. Seaver,
Sure,
Rusty Staub, Mookie Wilson, Dwight Gooden, Darryl Strawberry, Carter.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Mookie Wilson, Hubie Brooks, Steve Henderson.
Wow.
Those were Bob Abadaka.
Bob Abadaka. I definitely hear him referenced just because you can't forget a name like that. And what about the fact that Piazza's finally getting in the Hall of Fame as a Met?
That's huge.
Yeah, because
that was huge for the Mets.
You always feel like, Gary Carter went in as an expo, and you're just like, well, somebody's gonna, Lasorda's gonna call somebody and say no, he has to be a Dodger.
I thought he'd be a Dodger, so I'm excited that he loves being a Met.
Yeah, exactly.
And he was a great Met.
He was a great Met.
Great Met. I loved watching Mike play.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of those, obviously there's all the emotion to it, but I was at that game against the Braves after 9/11 when he hit the home run, and you just never seen so many grown men like happily crying, if that makes sense. Yeah. And not just that moment, he'd been so important before that, but it was one of those things when he started to deteriorate a little bit, you're like, oh man, Mike, what are you doing? This it was painful at the end, when they had him like, oh, go play first base. And it was better when, he was like on the Padres and he'd be in town like, for one series and you're like, yeah, there he is. All right, good. And they'd play his walk-up music and everything. So that's exciting. I'm glad that, that's not a trip I can make, Cooperstown for Piazza, but very excited that he gets to make it, because he's, it's so hard to quantify, players from the 90s. There's always allegations, but even guys that there's no proof, nothing, they're always like, I don't know about him. He's a little too good. And I'm glad that finally, for whatever reason, that's gone by the wayside and Piazza's going to get in. And, I mean, he's the best hitting catcher ever, if you look at his stats. So it's good. We could use another Met there. You go to Cooperstown, the only Met up until now was Tom Seaver. And he was great, but he was the only one. So yeah. So anyway, well, let's talk about your album. We heard that song at the beginning, and we'll hear another at the end. Songs from the Garage. Now the
you're sweating, Hammer.
I am. I know.
Sweating like you're on trial. You're sweating like Game 5. And we're winning in the ninth inning, and Harvey just walked a guy, and the next guy doubled. Yeah, right.
It's a winning sweat. No, I know. I probably
it's like someone just slapped your forehead with a wet cloth. I should have been afraid to say like, "Hey, can we put the air on in here?"
But it's all right. It's all right, because only people on YouTube will know how much I'm sweating. People on iTunes have no idea, except you told them. But that's all right.
Beating all up in the lines of your forehead.
I know. I
got a sweatshirt on.
I know, and you're fine.
Fine.
That's true. I guess I just get so excited when I talk about Mets.
You don't have
but
to.
You're all right. You can dial it down. You're a professional. I'm just too much of a fan. Anyway, let's talk about your album.
Yeah.
Your band, The Loud and Rowdy.
Yeah, there's one song that I tried to get done before the Mets playoffs last year, and I kind of wanted to be their anthem. And I started talking on my podcast, Jim Breuer, The Mets and More, and I started telling people, like, I want you to hear this song. I want you to hear a song so bad. It's called Who's Better Than Us.
Oh, wow.
And that's one of my favorite songs on there. And I think I'm still going to do a Met montage. And then when the album comes out on May 27th, I'll release that video, and then hopefully the Mets will pick it up.
Who's better than us?
Who's better than us? It's a great little anthem, and it's a big stadium thing. It's a good song.
That's great. And we talked about how you have Brian Johnson on 2 songs. Now talk about how that came about and what it was like that he said. I mean, first of all, he says yes. What does that mean to you? That you know?
He came to me. He said, Jimmy, my son, I want to be on a record with you. I heard you're making a record. I said, I'm going to take you up on that. He said, no, I'm being dead serious. I'm dead serious. I want you to be on this record. So, okay. And I started writing a song. what would be best for us. It was meant to be a little funnier.
Right.
It was about two guys getting old and they're tired of being called they're old, and at the end of the day they can tear it up better than anyone else. And so it was called Mr. Rock and Roll. You know, spend the kids' tuition. We're gonna clear the bank and we're gonna rip it up.
I like it.
He was ready to record it, and he came to the studio. We had all these microphones set up for Brian Johnson, AC/DC's going out on tour. And he goes, "Ed, I'm ready when you are, my son." So, well, waiting on you, get in the studio. And he goes, no, I don't go in the studio. I stand in the boardroom with a handheld mic, no headphones, that's cheating. And I like to sing listening to the speakers in front of the guys.
Wow.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's how he record. That's when I realized what a legend, one of the great icons of our time in rock history. This guy stands with a handheld microphone, just raw in front of everyone else, just what's it going in the mountains for those about to rock, tearing it up. And that is probably the one moment where I stood there and went, oh my God, Brian Johnson's singing on my album. It just, it's all too surreal for me even to think about it. And the song's a gorilla. I gotta cage it up. It's a monster. When I let it out, it's gonna tear cities down. It's King Kong. This is a monster song, and I'm excited for him, and I'm excited for the public to hear Brian Johnson's voice. Not only hopefully with future AC/DC stuff, but whatever comes his way. If other people start using him because his voice, he needs to be heard. His voice is like none other, and there's definitely a demand for it.
I saw him at Dodger Stadium in September, like right before the playoffs started.
I was there.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and he was great. Like,
I was there.
And you always wonder, you see somebody that's been at it for a while, you hear that they're good, but it's like I got to see it for myself, and he was still great, and it was fantastic.
It was unreal.
So not so much about the specifics of it, but what do you think about AC/DC doing some shows with Axl as the front man? Do you feel like is it worth seeing? You hope it's a temporary thing?
To each his own.
Yeah.
Me personally, I've seen
I love
AC/DC.
Axl. I'll see Guns N' Roses,
I
sure.
got nothing against Axl. Yeah. I'm sure he's going to pull the songs off really well.
Yeah.
He's got the voice for it. But I would have liked to see Brian sent off in a better manner. I would have liked to see a nice press conference and go, hey, we lost one of our mates, his ears, and we just want to do the best thing for him, and we want to honor him. And Brian, you have something to say? And Brian's like, yeah, I miss you all, and I hope to at least go out, and we're going to keep chugging along. We'll get some other singers, and I'll introduce the show. So at the end of the day, as a AC/DC fan, I didn't like the way it all went down.
Yeah, I mean, it was practically like they traded him to Milwaukee for Carlos Gomez.
That's exactly what happened. For Wheeler. Are you crazy? You got rid of Wheeler for Gomez? You're bringing it out. You didn't even. Are you kidding me? Brian Johnson. For those about to rock. Hey, thanks for working with us.
Thanks so much.
Good luck in your future. Yeah. Hell's bells, thunderstruck. You've been such a great sport these years. All the best to your future. What? If it wasn't for Brian, I wouldn't even know who Bon Scott was. I wouldn't even know who AC/DC was. He was my gateway to all of AC/DC. So.
I agree. Like I definitely heard the Brian Johnson songs long before I heard any Bon Scott songs.
And man, when you listen to his press conference, what a class act!
Yeah,
taking that just a class act individual, and then hear the other side like, well, it was good working with you. We'll see you in the future. Good luck. Hell's bells! She's whoa, hot dog. Reel it in. We need a little something better than that. I'm out.
So Brian Johnson isn't the only guest collaborator on the album. Talk about working with Rob Caggiano from Anthrax and Volbeat.
Volbeat and Anthrax.
Yeah.
Rob is a guitar shredder. He's in the band Volbeat. For those of you who don't know Volbeat, great band. Think of Elvis meets Metallica.
That's a great way to describe it.
It's Metallica Elvis. If it wasn't for Rob Caggiano, this album would be a complete disaster. It wouldn't exist. The man pushed me to my limits.
Right.
He taught me how to find my voice. He made me sing higher. He made me write. better. He made me really search for lyrics. I owe everything to him for this album. He was an absolute monster on it. Seriously, when you hear the guitars on this,
Right.
you're like, this is It's unfortunate. If this was 1988, I'd probably have leather pants and a kangaroo. It'd probably be the biggest metal album in history.
Right.
But because it's 2016, I hope I sell out of House of Blues.
Right, exactly. That's what I was going to ask. So you're going to do some shows with the band?
God, I'm touring with this. This is a big tour. This is, you got to think, guys, people that grew up with that 80s metal and the 90s, 80s, 90s hard rock metal, and now we're grown up with families and we're fathers and like yourself. This is exactly who I'm appealing to.
Yeah.
I'm singing about my family, a lot of it, although it's Metallica, Motley Crue, all mixed together. So it's pretty hot, and I can't wait to tour it. It's going to be a gorilla.
And your website's just JimBreuer.com.
Yeah, official JimBreuer.com.
Okay.
Facebook, the Met Fan Recaps. Yeah,
sure.
Twitter, the whole shebiggle, and you can find it. Matter of fact, right here, right now, my first music video ever was launched today. It's called Thrash. And you can watch it. It's all about what you do when you're home all alone and the family's out. You thrash and you listen to your music and tear it up.
That's great. Now, I saw that the album was on Metal Blade Records.
Yes.
Does Eddie Trunk still work with them? I know you guys are friends. I know that he spent a lot of time with it. Was he involved in
Did he work with Metal Blade?
Yeah, that was early on.
That.
He was trying to get them to sign, some actual, really...
Big
marketing.
Yeah,
he got them to put out the first Ace Frehley record because
that makes sense.
They were all really heavy, and he was like, well, maybe try and get something that you can play some. Yeah.
Right.
So
Eddie does not work for them.
Okay.
But I'm sure I just did a whole big thing with Eddie Trunk. He lives by me. We're friends.
Right. No, he
and
talks
all that
about
jazz.
you. Yeah, people call into his show and talk about you all the time. And,
Eddie's awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't think he works with Metal Blade. The head of Brian Slagle.
Okay.
Who's the head of Metal Blade. He saw me in California last time I was here a couple years ago, and I had a Christmas song that I just did. Oh, wow. And at the time, my manager was still a manager. Is Corey Brennan said, "Why don't we give him the song?" And here's the head of the record label sitting next to a dumpster behind a building in my little Toyota rent-a-car, listening to a CD, and he said, "You're gonna do a whole album like this?" I went, "Yeah." He goes. He turned to Corey. He's like, I'll be in your office Monday. And he came in Monday and said,
wow.
I want this record.
That's great.
This is huge. And thank God it's been between Metal Blade and management and the freaking Caggiano. I'm going to be tearing it up the next 2 years. Tearing it up. I don't care if there's 6 people in the audience. I'm going to rip it.
Yeah, those
to
6
pieces.
people are going to be.
They're going to go nuts. Shirts off. And then I got to bring them back to their babysitter. So
right, exactly. Well, yeah, and it's true. It's
no moshing, just walking really fast.
No, yeah, moshing.
In a circle.
Yeah, there's because I just turned 40 this year, so it's like moshing. It's definitely in the past. But every once in a while, you see people, you're just like, whoa, okay, slow it down a little. Yeah, just this.
We'll do a slow nod to take a nap.
Yeah, right, exactly. A big nap circle in the middle of the pit. Yeah. So, well, Jim, I really appreciate you coming on to our debut episode here. We're going to talk about the Mets every week. There's going to be a panel of people, a rotating panel, and nice. Some standard, some regulars. That's the word I'm looking for. But it's going to be a fun show, and I couldn't have thought of a better way to kick it off than having you here.
Thank you.
And we got 4 against the Padres and 4 against the Dodgers. So I know. So these are late games. It's good that you're out here to watch them because if you're in New Jersey, like this Friday game in San Diego starts at 7:40 our time. So for people on the East Coast, you probably just need to watch it in the morning.
That's right. It's going to be good. Let's go Mets, baby. And thanks for having me.
Right, exactly. Thanks so much. I'm Christian Blatt, and we'll see you next time on Mets Wrap 360.
Thanks, man.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.